Our next guest also made her mark as a standout player on the Notre Dame women's basketball team, serving as a captain her senior year. Missy Conboy graduated from Notre Dame with a degree in English in 1982 and the University of Kansas School of Law in 1985. Conboy joined the NCAA enforcement staff in 1985 before returning to Notre Dame as a member of the athletic department staff in 1987. It would take most of the rest of this show to list all the things Missy has done for Notre Dame over the years, so suffice it to say, she has risen through the ranks to her current position of Senior Deputy Director of Athletics, where she works closely every day with Director of Athletics Jack Swarbrick.
Thanks, Jack. That was a kind introduction. I work closely with her. She runs the place. I just sort of pretend to do it. Missy, thanks so much for being with us. So every day as I walk from my car and to my car through Heritage Hall, I get to see a picture of you shooting a free throw during a women's basketball game, commemorating your athletic career here. You were here at an interesting time for women's basketball. Tell me about it.
Well, that might be the only picture ever taken of me playing basketball. There was no social media back then. I'm sure they couldn't find any videos. So I like to say that we set the foundation for women's sports here at Notre Dame. Basketball was only in its second year as a varsity program when I was on the team, and so I had an opportunity to really be part of the foundation. And Beth Morgan, who's also on the show today, I like to say benefited from the foundation we placed, and she took it up to the first, second, third level, and the players that have followed her have gone beyond that. But it was a really interesting time. We actually played Division III my first 2 years, and we were in the AIAW. And then when I was a junior, we switched over to the NCAA in 1980, and we switched to a Division I program. And we still hold the record for the most lopsided loss in Notre Dame history. I believe it was 127-48 at the hands of a very good South Carolina team. So we got a very interesting experience moving from Division III to Division I with very few scholarship athletes on our Division I team when we started.
Did you have any idea how big this program would become when you first were playing?
Oh, gosh. Well, I knew if Notre Dame invested in women's athletics here at the university that we could do some wonderful things. And really the commitment that came during the time I spent with my first athletic director, Dick Rosenthal, really started to invest in the women's programs, as did Mike Wadsworth. And then when Kevin White came along, we really started to invest in all of our Olympic sports. And so to see the rise really since 2004, since we've been fully funded, has been just remarkable, because it's not just been on our women's side, it's been across all of our Olympic sports.
This is probably a really unfair question given all you've done for this department, the student athletes, but are there one or two things in terms of achievements or milestones that stick out for you during your time here?
Well, interestingly enough, yesterday was one of those days, and we celebrated it recognized the anniversary of the bus accident with our swim team. And that is always a day for me that I think back on how this community really came together and really tried to work our way through a very difficult time, and just the spirit of those student athletes on that team, and certainly Haley Scott DeMaria's story and how she came through that. That's an event and an inspirational moment for me with Haley that I'll always remember. And I look back on incredibly poignantly. I actually penned a note today to the Hip family. I had gotten an email from them a couple weeks ago, and again on that day I remembered them and that they lost Colleen there, and reached back out to them. It's just one of those things that really time kind of stands still when you think about that particular occasion.
Yeah, it's certainly, I wasn't here, of course, but the more I've been involved in understanding it, the more it does demonstrate that community dynamic, of course. But, also I think a lot of the things you've led to try and help us make sure that going forward we're in a position to take the best possible care we can of everybody who's part of this program.
Absolutely. I think from a risk management perspective, we try to look particularly at all our facilities, at the way we travel, at the kind of resources that we give to our student athletes. And we know that we can't avoid things that are beyond our control, but we certainly know that we want to always make sure that we are incredibly careful with the young people that are entrusted to our care.
You mentioned facilities. You we have consumed your life for the past couple of years with one very big facility in particular. You do a lot of other things, but you're Notre Dame Athletics point person to Crossroads, Campus Crossroads. Give us some insight into where that project stands and how you feel about it.
Oh gosh, I remember so well that day. I think it was May of 2013 when you rolled out the big idea, and it was exciting to hear you describe what that project could be, kind of a crossroads and intersection of campus life, really making use of the space around the stadium and kind of delivering on the innovation that Knute Rockne dreamed of when he built the initial stadium here. And when you sat with me and asked if I wanted to take on the responsibility for being the point person for athletics, I remember you saying that this is going to consume your life for the next 4 years. And I didn't have any concept at the time. We went, after it was announced, the idea came forward, we put together a feasibility team, a study team, so we could, take a look at, what should move in there and, what it would cost and how we could manage to build this around 2 football seasons. And then when we actually got the project approved in October that year, I believe it was 13 months later that we broke ground. So the design and development of that space moved incredibly quickly, and there would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 meetings a week on different aspects of that project. There were 3 different architecture firms, a construction management firm, countless consultants. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. And then you really thought that once you kind of got the shovel in the ground, things would slow down. But then, there was more detailed planning, and then there was just the operational aspect of it, making sure that we were able to operate, 6 home football games during a construction project. We would get the keys on Thursday night to the stadium, and we would do inspections on Friday morning, and then on Saturday after the game, we would hand the keys back to Barton Mallow, and they would resume the building. So it's really been just an incredible opportunity to contribute to something that is going to be here for a very long time, and something that's really going to impact virtually everybody on our campus. And thankfully, Jack gave me the assistance of Beth Hunter, who's one of our associate ADs, and she and I really have spent the better part of the last 3.5 years. I think it's 203 days left until we need to have this done.
After I graduate, that's all I know.
And Rachel, I actually feel badly for your
Me
class
too.
in particular, because we started the project before, or had it approved before you came in as a freshman, and you had to live through all the construction, and then you're going to be graduating before you get a chance to actually
I heard
inhabit
there's a great student center, coffee shop. That's my kind of thing.
Absolutely. 3-story climbing wall. But once you finish pitching, you'll be able to climb that, and the coaches won't worry. So
I won't get in trouble. So this was your idea and her workload.
Yeah, that's generally the way it works, right? I don't do anything. I just
bark the orders.
I just spin off these ideas.
I think Jack said he's a big idea person, and he likes to think about the next idea. And when we've worked on a couple projects with Jack, he said something like, I want this building to be able to tell a story. And we'll say, like, well, what story do you want it to tell? And he said, well, that's your job. You figure it out. But I'll know it when I see it. So, we work hard to try to deliver on the ideas that he presents to us.
From the student standpoint, and probably many of the viewers, I would like to know, where did you get this idea? Not to interrogate you, but
go ahead.
Well, it's probably too long a story. I'll eat up all Missy's time. But suffice it to say, I was trying to solve the problem of our environment not being as supportive of the home team as it could be. We had the second worst home field advantage in college football.
Who was first?
And I can't remember, but you just measure home performance against away performance, and I thought part of that was, while it was a great stadium with a lot of tradition, it didn't carry the energy on game day it might have. So I was trying to solve that problem. I was doing research on its history, and I came across a picture of the stadium on opening day when Knute Rockne built it. And the picture really helped me realize I was asking the wrong question, that Knute Rockne built this stadium off campus. And this was a real estate issue. It wasn't a football issue. And the question I should be asking is, how can we take a parcel of real estate that's now central to the campus? Everybody who parks south walks by it. Mm-hmm. Everybody who lives east walks by it. Our 2 busiest classrooms are right next to it. And how can you take that real estate and only use it 7 days a year? And so the question I needed to be asking was, how can we make this a year-round facility? And that question led to a whole host of things. So that's how we got there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We never knew it from that perspective.
Yeah. Well, and we're awfully proud of it. And Missy, we're so proud of everything you've done to sort of navigate this, because the project of this nature is never easy, but inside a university, it's especially challenging to sort of manage all the relationships and decision makers that have to be involved.
And we looked at that as one of the great opportunities, because how often do you really get to engage in a project that really touches so many different parts of campus life? And so when you look at the final product, you're going to have a tremendous community building in the student center. You're going to have a recreational building. You're going to have a career center, digital media center. It speaks to innovation. It speaks to community. It speaks to academics. It speaks to a great game day experience. And I don't mean just for those who might have purchased a seat in the premium section. We mean that we're delivering on a great game day experience to everybody within the bowl, with the video board and new seating and Wi-Fi and better cell coverage and new restrooms and concession stands and even a new food partner. There's everything we're doing is intended to deliver just a uniquely Notre Dame experience. And so I would tell you that virtually every single minute decision that goes into what is occupying that space and how we're telling the story of both of Rockne's traditional stadium and highlighting that 1930 stadium, and at the same time delivering on an innovative experience for the millennial that's coming to our game, I think is going to be something very exciting to see.
And we're going to be ready?
Absolutely.
All right. Wouldn't want to hear otherwise, right? Not at this point. You have provided great leadership not only in that project but all our facility projects. But all our senior administrators wear a second hat, and that is as a sport administrator. And you manage the volleyball program for us. Another sport like swimming that we've talked about on this show that's undergone change. Give us your perspective on the process of bringing on a new coach. Jim has been on the show and we've talked to him, and where you see the program now.
Absolutely. So, anytime you go through a coaching change, you really need to look for somebody who is an ideal fit with the program. And I had approached it in a little bit different way. I had reached out to 8 of the volleyball coaches across the country who were in the top 16 in the Sweet 16 in their tournament. And I asked the question, what do you think of Notre Dame volleyball, and who do you think would be a unique fit here? And I got all sorts of interesting answers. But the one thing that was just incredible to me is that everybody wanted to talk to us about Notre Dame volleyball and what they thought it could be. And so after I got these names, I had known Jim's name. I had known him when he was here. You could tell that he may be interested because I reached out to him to see if he could name somebody who would be a good fit here, and he wouldn't give me any names. So part of that was his team was still in the tournament, and I think he wanted to make sure he thought it through with his family before he decided to kind of throw his hat into the ring. So we were just thrilled that he decided to come. He's excited about having his family here. His daughter's a freshman on our soccer team. But it's been really fascinating to see the way he approached the program and his methodology of teaching, and really very focused on the mental aspects of the game and really teaching a different style of volleyball. And it was a learning curve for our kids on the team, because they had played, even the incoming freshmen had played a very different style of volleyball coming in. And I can remember one of the first days in the spring, he was teaching them how to pass the ball. And for like a week, all they did was pass the ball. No serving, no hitting, passing the ball. But to him, that was the most important thing. You're getting the ball into play, and you need to make sure that first pass is the most important thing. He was setting that tone for them. So, we only won 6 games his first year, turned it around, and won 22 games his second year. We were on an incredible tear there and ranked number 1 in the conference, and our setter went down with a broken bone in her leg and was out the rest of the season. So, I think that the trajectory has been tremendously swift, and he's done a tremendous job on the recruiting front too. So I think good things are in store for that program.
How closely do you work with volleyball in between doing the Crossroads project as well?
So I try to get, Jack encouraged us to be as hands-on as possible. I meet with Jim every week. He was in my office today. We were reviewing the ACC proposed schedule for next year, and I try to get down to practice once or twice a week just to watch them. I went on one road trip with them this year. I go to all their home games, and our hope is that when they start going to postseason that I'll be there at the Final Four with them in a couple years. So I just finished up my senior interviews, one with Simone Collins last week and kind of helping her with the job search a little bit. And Katie Higgins is actually going to be working in our office a little bit this semester as she finishes up. She's trying to kind of create a community, a database, and then kind of deliver on an alumni experience for our volleyball program. So she's going to be meeting with a lot of the other coaches and director of ops to figure out how they engage their alumni population so that we can deliver a little bit more of that experience for our alumni in volleyball.
You certainly have your hands full. It's doing so much for everyone.
Well, and we've only touched the tip of the iceberg between Missy's work with both the NCAA in a host of capacities and our conference, managing one of our important sports, and we talked about Crosswords, but all our facilities, our community service, everything that goes in with our game ops. It's a very full slate. You do it exceptionally well. Thanks for all you do for Notre Dame, and thanks for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back in a minute.